when I became popular in 2012, 2013, 2014, that time frame, it was sort of the golden age of creating powerful viral internet videos. There was a formula to it that if you were able to create something that created a headline and you're able to get on one of the buzz feeds of the world, that sort of would create this cascade effect. And going viral at that time, if you got 1 million views or 2 million views, actually meant something. It meant like newspapers around the world were picking you up as this sort of fringe internet sensation. And I experienced that completely by mistake when I decided to tie a model 30 meters underwater in a shipwreck in Bali.
Yeah, that was insane.
And so this idea of like creating headlines around your images, if you don't make it easy for people to talk about what you do, no one's going to talk about it. So what is the email subject line that people are going to click on? What is the header that's going to make someone want to share? Was something that I kind of fell into. And because I was documenting my process already, that gave the story, it gave the backbone to a lot of the stuff that I was creating. And so through that vehicle and through that lens of marketing and content creation and doing crazy things, I was able to somehow ride this wave, not to the heights of like, I think I never reached crazy popularity, I think, but I was still able to create enough momentum for myself so that I was able to attract the attention of big companies that really wanted something weird, something different, something authentic, something that was, where you could see a fantasy come to life. And so after I accomplished that, we're talking 2015, I had a big major global campaign with Huawei, which is a cell phone company that isn't popular anymore.
Uh-huh. But you did that fire concept with them. So that same concept that we'd kind of seen a little bit earlier and that you had touched on several times, this pyrotechnics, we then saw it brought to life through that Huawei campaign and photographing it with the actual cell phone, right?
Yeah, exactly. Using a prototype of their cell phone, and the amount of money you earn from a commercial shoot. I mean, just to give, I suppose, a barometer, every time someone licenses an image for a country, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars per license, and there are a lot of countries in the world that they may want to advertise in. And so this sort of gave me a window into what life as a commercial photographer might look like.
Yeah,
and I think while most people would run towards it, I thought it felt really boring.
Why is that?
Because it felt like, what do you do after one big project? You just do another big project to do what? To earn more money, to move more product off a shelf, to do the next big project. Like I think the challenge had been reached. Can I make a living as an artist? Am I good enough to make it? Yes. Okay, cool. And then once you start creating things that are popular and that go viral, you start asking yourself, well, what am I going to do with this visibility anyways? Like, I have the views. I've gotten more views. I can get more views. But what? But for what? But okay, for earning more money to do more projects. But really, your projects aren't getting more creative. You're spending more time sitting in a meeting room talking to people. Your projects aren't getting more impactful necessarily. You're spending all your time talking to clients to just do a big thing that is really about spending a lot of money. So it didn't have a soul. Like, it was lacking a center. It was lacking heart.
This is very introspective thinking. I mean, you're under the age of 30 at that point. How old were you then?
Probably 26, 27. Wait, no, sorry. I think I was about 28.
Okay.
Something like that.
And it's safe to say that you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars off that Huawei campaign. And you're thinking, what is the purpose of all of it? Like this is a level of introspection at an age that I just don't, it's unheard of. I mean, there's not a lot of people that I can think of that are, usually if you're 28 and you have made that kind of money off of a thing, you're like, man, how far can I go with this? Until you're 40 years old. And then you're like, it'd be nice if I was working towards something bigger.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like a big decision to me. The direction at which it came from, I suppose, was, when I looked back at the projects that I was most proud of at that time, it wasn't the Huawei shoot. I mean, that was the one I earned the most money and I was on the most billboards and I was playing in front of movies and before cinemas. But it was like, I don't know, that's not something I really posted about. It's not something I wanted to share. What I was a lot more excited about were the projects where you're able to make a difference in people's lives, right? It's receiving that piece of feedback where it's like, oh, thank you. Thanks to the work that you've created, So I have a story. Back when I did my first presentation in 2010, so I was still a hard rock mining engineer. I hadn't quit my day job yet. I was making these videos of me going around. I was going to do my first presentation to a local photo club, and I wrote on Facebook and I said, hey, if the work that I've created has helped or moved you in any way, shape, or form, could you please leave a comment? And most people were saying thanks. I learned a bunch of photography tips, but there's this one guy that said like, hey, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your work. I am chronically ill and depressed, and thanks to discovering your work, it gave me a completely new way to see the world. And I wanted to become a photographer. I wanted to do what you were doing. And since then, I have become, a locally known photographer. And this is Tyler Grace. And in what you're showing right now on screen is me actually going to surprise him for his 21st birthday.
That's
and it's like
awesome.
Oh, like this is the power of the art that I'm creating. This is the kind of stuff that I want to do more of. Like these are the kinds of lives I want to shift. And how can I do that? Right. And so the question was like, it wasn't so much, can my work move people? Because I knew it could do that because I had built a following and I had people kind of, inviting me to speak and so forth. And there was a whole inspirational slant to it. But it was, can I make the end result of what I create bigger and more meaningful? And at the time, my biggest success that was impact was making a video for a family of strangers. I received an email from them saying like, hey, they had seen my work, it had gone viral. They were wondering if I could help them make a viral video for their daughter who's dying of a terminal degenerative brain disease.
I remember
and
that.
Yeah, so that's Saving Eliza. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to make videos because I'm a photographer, but if no one else volunteers, I'm free in a couple months and I'm happy to come over and shoot something. And so a couple months later, I reached out and I'm like, so did you guys find anyone? They're like, nope. I was like, okay. So I flew over, slept in their stofo for like 9 days, made a video, and it ended up raising $1 million in a month and $2 million over the course of the year. And now they're the thriving foundation inside of this thing. Their daughter was one of the first people who received the first person to ever receive a clinical trial in that field of disease. And it's just like, oh, this is making a difference. This is contributing back to the world. I want to do more of that. And when I realized that making money was never going to scratch that itch, I actually almost quit photography because I was like, oh, this is a dead end. It's not going to get me where I want to go. So I started making documentary films. And I had this idea that if I made documentaries, maybe I could find worthy causes and just not even charge people, make these videos for free and just take a percentage of like the amount raised. And it would be like 1% or 5% or something like that. But after 6 months of doing that, I realized that I was just constantly surrounded by sadness. Like I was almost telling these sad, mopey stories all the time because that's what would work. Like the storytelling formula, right? The hero's journey. And it was just like, oh, this is not how I want to spend my life. This is way too depressing. And so then I started embarking on a journey to try to figure out how to combine the two. Yeah.
Yeah.